Okay. And first, we want to thank to all participants. This network was born from the initiative of the Regional Director of Agriculture from Lisboa e Vale do Tejo, having heard the enthusiasm of our partners in the United States. You can okay. Namely, the agricultural counselor for Spain and Portugal, Jennifer Clever. After the first meeting on September about an overview of Portugal and California agriculture and climate challenge, today we held a video conference on the topic of tomato, common to both regions, Portugal and California, and that represents in Portugal to 14,400 hectares with a productivity of 99 tons per hectare. In future, there will certainly be other topics from common interest to be carried out with our regional entities in the sense of an international partnership which may represent added value for all. For today, Team Tomato will launch the invitation to CCTI, a non-profit association to increase the research and development and innovation in the Portuguese tomato-based sector, which will share with us the two teams. The order of this session will be presentation by CCTA Engineer João Santos Silva, next presentation by California partners, and finally an open debate between all participants. So, Engineer João Santos Silva, it's your turn.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Well, let me see if I can manage this. Anyway, if I have any problem with my English, I ask the support for Dr. Martin Stilwell. He knows quite well what we are doing in the CCTI, and he has perfect English, of course. So, Dr. Martin, I'm counting on you if needed.
Okay.
Thank you. One moment, please. Let me see if I can do this. I don't know. It's perfect. The presentation. You can see the proper the slide, the PowerPoint. Okay. So thank you, everybody. As presented, I will talk a little bit about CCTI, that is R&D platform. This is an association, but it's an R&D platform for the Portuguese tomato paste sector. So what we do technological surveillance. What is try to find benchmarking for our sector. Of course, after and identify something that it's quite new or very nice to be experimented in our country, or after experimented and having some results, we do knowledge transference, and our main the way that we work is carrying on R&D projects. So. And to do that, we try to make some links and the interaction between entities in our region and, in some cases, with European R&D system. So we are R&D platform, R&D hub, trying to increase the knowledge in our sector, in our region. Very little, small overview about the European tomato production. So 40% of the tomato that we produce in Europe, 40% is consumed fresh, and 60% is for processing for industry purpose. So we have more or less, and having this short map about the production all over the world. Europe represents 10 million tons of processed tomato. Having an idea, Portugal represents 1.4 million tons, and Spain 3.2. But Portugal and Spain are not the biggest country in production. Italy, as you can see in the map, Italy is the most productive country for tomato paste. But anyway, only to compare, California produces more tomato than all European countries together. So after the overview, a little presentation about some of our projects. At the moment we are running 9 projects. I will only show 4, just to open a little bit the discussion about what is concerning in our days and what we are working on. So first one, this green taste is related with the use of the green tomatoes. So the tomato industry, they only, it's, of course, it's not 100%, wants completely red tomatoes to be processed. So in the field, it remains more or less 9 tons per hectare, and that means a huge loss, or some losses of energy, water, and food. What we took was an example from other crops, especially in Central Europe, and I think everyone knows the choucroute, for example, or the choucroute example. And we tried to ferment it, and we are talking about lactic acid fermentation, tomatoes, green tomatoes, and try to see what kind of products we can make. Lactic acid fermentation is suitable for green tomatoes, of course, and we could create a probiotic new food. First, we tried to make an assessment to understand if the amount of green tomatoes that remains in the fields. For that, we took 6 fields in different conditions, in different microclimate conditions and different kind of soils in our region. And as you can see, the statistical mode, it's 9 tons per hectare. Of course, we can see as well in some fields cause of disease, pests, or other reasons, it could increase a lot. But anyway, we can stop in the statistical model. So 9 tons per hectare at least of green tomatoes remains in the field. Of course, when we say green tomatoes, we mean unripened tomatoes. That means between dark green and orange or almost red, but anyway, orange tomatoes. So we must understand for different kind of products, we can have different kind of maturation, and we are studying that relation. What could be the best maturation time for each product that we can that we intend to produce? Additionally, we are working with the lab, that means lactic acid bacteria strains, and so different strains means different purpose as well. And finally, tomato varieties. We are working with a lot of companies. Some of them you know quite well: Heinz, Nunams, United Genetics. They are some of them American, others. Well, anyway, they are, I think, globally known or worldwide known, this kind of brands. I can tell you only for curiosity that we were thinking, for example, in that we were working in a product for to be consumed as a food or as a sauce. And for example, one of the not examples, one of the persons that try one of the products said that could be a fantastic base for a new kind of drink, for example, with vodka or with a gin. Well, for me, even fish yogurt with gin, it's quite good. So I don't know don't feel strange if anyway propose gin with green tomatoes, fermented green tomatoes. Well, a second project, Quali Tomate. I've told you I already told the importance of the color in the tomato industry. So to be in this case, the project prefers the complexity of being simply red, and that's true. It's very complex, the factors that could affect the color of the tomato. So we in this project we try to understand the conditions to understand the pest, the disease, or to occurrence of pest and disease. The fertilization is quite important as well, and the variety for each soil, for each conditions, and that could promote different kind of maturation and, of course, different kind of color in the final tomatoes. Another project, another project is a little bit related with eco-innovation. That means do the same with less or do more with the same. In this case, we are focusing in the water and nitrogen. So do the same, that means do the same, having the same yield using the same quantity of water or nitrogen, or using less quantities of water and nitrogen, or try to do more if I use the same quantity of water and nitrogen. What kind of tools are we working on to understand in this project? So the variety selection as well, it's quite important, the genetics, and mycorrhiza impact. So in 2019, we start the inoculation of mycorrhiza in the tomato plants. And the big question was, when should we do this? During the sowing or upon seedling emergency? After having a protocol, and we try a lot. I don't know if Hugo Kelso from Rel Camp is here. He helped us a lot with this during this test. So, after having a protocol, we started with a preliminary field assay in 2020, so last year, and we will do it, maybe we will do it again in 2021. And our big question will be, can mycorrhizal inoculation confer resistance against tomato pathogens in the field? So we are looking for the effect of mycorrhizal and the fight against the pathogens in the soil. Finally, and I'm trying not to take too much time, we are studying a legume that it's trying to understand the sustainable efficiency of LabLab. LabLab is a forgotten crop. We stopped to cultivate, we stopped to produce it in the 15th or 16th century, when the new food from the new world, that means tomato, potatoes, corn, start to arrive to Europe. So this kind of legume was forgotten or step aside. And well, and one of the reasons why we started with working on this is because the flour and the grain has high nutritional value. The leaves, we can heat it, and leaves and pod, we can heat it as well. And you can see here some salads make with the leaves from this legume. It's quite nice for feed to the animals. Well, it remains in some garden, not in Portugal, but in some parts in Europe, as an ornamental plant. And that's the reason, and you should be asking why tomato association are working with this kind of legume, because we think it could be a good rotation crop with tomato to be used as a green manure. So thinking as a cover crop, more or less. I'd like to show you this image from 2017. 2017 was a very dry year here in Portugal. You can see in May, these plants, I don't know if I can show you these plants on the right side of the first picture, and the same plants in July. So no water, and they were completely dry, as straw, completely. But the lab remains in the soil without any water. So only they turn off the leaves, and they can continue alive in the middle of more or less this desert. As you can see, the brown means very dry, or conditions, or the water in the soil. So in July was low, very low, and in September is not the same. Unfortunately, is not the same places. There are not the same plants, but it's not far away from this essay that we have here. Anyway, in September, the plants turn the leaves back again to accomplish the cycle with the first waters from September. I don't know if Patricia Vidigal is hearing us. Patricia?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
I don't know if you, Patricia, she's a researcher. She's a PhD from the university. She works with us in this with this plant. I don't know if you want to tell something about Lab.
Thank you, João. So there is something interesting also as a reason why rotating with tomato with this legume, this multifunctional legume. So if I could just share a little bit of results. I don't know if I can show or not. Can you see it? Well, anyway, in 1 year of can everyone hear me? In 1 year of rotation, there was an increase of nitrogen from 1 year to another, and also an increase in phosphorus and potassium. Also, the organic matter in the field also increased about 10%. So, using this legume that is drought tolerant, and it's possible to improve the structure and the nutrition of the soil with just 1 year of rotation with tomato. And in crossing both, so using both the project NEP and the project stencil, the one with the lab, it was possible to see that with 1 year rotation, you could achieve the same production, the same yield of tomato as if you use half, like 50% of the nitrogen that usually is used to get a good yield. So in terms of going towards the Green Deal, going towards the sustainable development goals that we all hear, using legumes such as this. Some of them are called forgotten and are being in a consortium, in the international consortium, are being sequenced, including this one. They are a potential alternative for our agriculture and equilibrium of our ecosystem without losing productivity, and also gives to the production, to someone that produces this type of forgotten crops such as lab, a multitude of options in the end. Green manure, feed, rotation, grain and flour to produce other products, or even just eat the leaves or the pods like any other bean, like green bean. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you, João. João?
Oh, sorry. I don't know why it turned off the sound. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Oh, I was trying. Sorry. Let me share again my presentation, if it's possible. Sorry. Wait a moment. Can you see the presentation again?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the project that I intend to present to you today. Anyway, this is our symbol. A little bit. It's not an apple, of course. It's a tomato, and we think together. Anyway, I don't know if maybe something could be passed from me. I don't know if Dr. Martin Stilwell, if you can help me or if you can transmit a little bit more about CCTI.
No, I think you've done a good job. There is an area which potentially could interest California, which is the use of mycorrhiza in the transplants. One of the serious issues faced in California is Fusarium race 3 and Fusarium in general, the emergence of new strains, and the use of mycorrhiza to improve root health could be an interesting area to be researched in California.
Okay, so I cannot wait a moment. Well, maybe this could be the start of some conversations. If we could have, who knows, good partners in California, that could be an interesting subject to study together. So, as I said a few minutes ago, well, thinking together, it's our team, so it's what we want to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, João Santos Silva, Paula Vidigal, and Martin Stilwell. So now we pass to our partners in California.
Yeah, no problem. Is there a chance we could kind of introduce everyone real quick and where they are? There's some people I know, some people I don't. My presentation won't change.
Okay.
I'm Mike Mott, and I'm with the California Tomato Growers Association here in California. I always enjoy these things, so thank you for the invite. I will say at the, just at the beginning, these are always the first meetings to try to kind of get to know each other and, see what maybe we're working on at some point that we can collaborate with you and you can collaborate with us. I know many of you, a few of you on the call pretty well, but we have a research institute here. Right. Obviously, I think in future conversations, I would like to bring them with me to any of these that we do in the future. But thank you for your time today.
I can present myself also. I think that's what was what you asked. So my name is Patricia Vidigal. I'm from Instituto Superior de Agronomia or School of Agriculture of the University of Lisbon. I work in the genetics lab, and people call me. It's weird for a Portuguese to say scientist, but I'm an agronomic scientist. So apart from studying biodiversity conservation, I also do some work with the transcriptomics and metabolomics. So I started with this project with CCTI and some NGOs and tomato producers to try to find a solution, a green solution, and that could give other less inputs with more outputs apart from tomato if needed, and increasing the yield of tomato with, of course, trying not to, during that rotation, taking advantage of the fact that this plant can grow green and luxury without no water. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, I could introduce myself. I'm Martin Stilwell. I think in Portugal, most of you know me. I'm president of HIT, the tomato processor. And that's me.
I can present myself. I'm Sofia Stilwell. I work for HIT. I'm head of sourcing, and I'm also the president of CCT.
Hi, if I can, I'm Jennifer Clever with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, representing USDA in Spain and in Portugal. And I also have Marta Guerrero, also agricultural specialist here as well. I'm not sure if she can speak, but both of us are on the line and delighted to have another bilateral meeting with you guys. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if who could be the next, but anyway, I took the floor a few minutes ago. I work in the CCTI, one of the directors, and we try to develop the projects with almost all the persons that talk until now. So as Sofia said, she's the president, and Patricia developed the stencil with us, and I'm trying to identify in the audience other persons that work with us. For example, Hugo Kelso, I don't know if you are there, or someone from the OPs, that means the producers organization, maybe Hugo Pereira. I don't know if he's there. So my name is João Silva. I don't know if I said that in the beginning. Thank you.
We can't hear.
On mute.
No.
Luis, Felipe, maybe you could go on with Mike again. Não estou a ouvir.
We are from, I'm Luís Filipe Souza from Regional Direction of Agriculture, and there are other people, other partners that are in section, but maybe we could go on.
Mike, could you please go on, please?
Yes, sorry, couldn't think something to work. I will. I kind of just put just a few slides together, just a little bit. Like I said, some of this will be repetitive, but just a little bit of what we are about California, and we can go from there. Let me see if I can figure out how to make it work. Hold on. Sorry, this whole Zoom world is still trying to get it. I don't want to learn it too well. I want to go back to seeing people. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, once again, thank you. We'll kind of look at just, California, we pretty much grow in the Central Valley of the state. It's kind of anyone that's been here, there's Interstate 5 that runs down the center of the state, all the way from the north to the south, and we pretty much grow in the I-5 corridor, basically in 16 counties. Sorry, hold on, let me turn this off. 16 counties. We currently have about 235 growers. That number keeps declining over the last, we were over 300 about 3-4 years ago. Just seeing more consolidations, switch to different crops, more permanent plantings, water concerns. Average grower size is about 1,000 acres. The average size tonnage is about 50,000 tons. Down south, if you look in the Fresno, Kings, Kern County area at the south, you really start running into more water issues. We've seen a big change in some sourcing in those areas. And it'll depend. We have, new groundwater pumping regulations here in California. A lot of things will be changing over the next 5 or 10 years, and we'll just have to see how they play out. We're pretty resilient. We figure a way out, but I do think you could see some changes and ultimately long-term where things are sourced. CTGA, we're a bargaining cooperative. We were formed in 1947, basically to represent the growers. 96% of our tomatoes come from California that we consume here. We're usually around 26 to 34% of the world supply comes here. We pretty much work on behalf of our growers. Anything that, I always look at it that anything that can impact them or affect them, give us a call. We'll try to figure it out for them. We do a lot of stuff on the federal and state issues, whether it's trade or pesticides or anything else that might impact you as a grower. From an acreage standpoint, we're currently in this kind of mid 230,000 ton acre range. It's been pretty consistent the last 4 years. We've had some huge growth. We've, in 2014 and 15, with trade being down a little bit, we've had to reduce our packs. We'll see what kind of the future holds. That's a decent number for us. It seems to be kind of a comfortable place overall. This chart is something that I look at kind of regularly. If you look back in 07, 08, 09, 2010, kind of in the front part of the season, the blue line is what our intentions were in January, and the red line is kind of actuals. If you kind of, hey, what's going on in California? What are some things that are issues? It appears that we are a lot more volatile these days than we were in the past as far as what we would put in the ground and what would actually happen. I think Martin pointed out, earlier, fusarium, disease pressures. We converted to drip irrigation. Probably started very early, 15, 20 years ago. Now we're almost 92, 93% drip irrigation. So we saw yield increases from that, water efficiencies from that. But we're pretty much, all that conversion's been done. So yield increases are, not happening at the rate, and we're just a little more volatile than we used to be. 3 of the last 4 years were, for our standards, pretty significantly off of what our intentions were on the crop size. And all these tons are in short tons. And like I was saying, if you look at tons per acre, and why we're always looking to have discussions with other places, other countries, other people, we're flat. If you look at from basically 2012 on, we're a 48-point-something ton industry. You can see the growth on the front end of the chart was basically the conversion to drip. We stabilized in the drip, and now we're just fighting it. This is just an inventory chart just to show, it kind of correlates with some of the, I know it might not be as interesting to everyone else, but it kind of, if you're looking at the total package of California, why some of our numbers are up and why some of them are down. The green line's really the inventory, and that's kind of the significant one as to why were they at 14 million 1 year and down to 11.5 then 5 years later. This chart will explain it to you pretty well. World crop, I think you guys had shown that chart earlier on the 19 crop. It was just slightly better at 38.5 million tons. This is one we hired some outside economists, and I just thought for you all on the call, it's always good because I know you're looking at your production costs, where things are. We had them do a baseline. We hired some economists, had them do a pretty in-depth study on some costs and where we were, just trying to kind of self-assess ourselves, self-check ourselves, and where we thought things were going the next, 4 or 5 years. And so based on using 18 as the base, kind of where were we heading over the next 5 years? And I just show you these because I'm sure you have growers or other people that you're curious on certain things, how and where you stack up. Like I said, for us, production costs continue to go up. We have minimum wage increasing pretty much every year for 2 more years, $1. There was an exemption for ag overtime that is phasing out. We see seed costs continue to rise and other things. But on the bright side, we see inventory moving in the right direction. So that's kind of just an overview of California. Is there any questions or comments? I hope I haven't been on mute the whole time.
No.
No.
Yeah, you're well.
Please.
So this is the part we expect we all talk about the presentations and expect that all we all have.
Thank you. Well, if you allow me, I have one question for our colleagues from California. As you saw, we have some concerns related with the green tomatoes, and again, the wage of water and energy that remains in the fields. In the case of California, can you give us an idea what you do with this food? Because it's food, it's a fruit. Nothing happened. So with them, it continues as food, and they didn't touch any material that are not allowed for food industry. So my question is, we are promoting this project related with fermentation, lactase fermentation. What are you doing with the green tomatoes in California?
Yeah, when I first kind of heard about this, I knew that one of the issues was kind of, green tomatoes and what do we do with them? And it's interesting. It hasn't been a huge driver here. On the about 80% of our tonnage, 75 to 80% on annual basis goes to the paste market, and the other 20 to 25% goes into the can side of the business, a fresh pack can. So like a Del Monte, we'll make canning lines right there, straight out of through the processing facility from the field. From a paste perspective, we have green standards, but quite honestly, we don't leave a lot in the field. Some processors, will harvest pretty significant amounts of green into the factory. You made, like I said, the discussion about it made me think about it, but it's not, if I asked them to list, their top 10 issues, I'm not sure it would make something that they were concerned about in the top 10. And that's not saying it's not, I don't want to say you shouldn't be looking at it. That's not what I mean at all. What I'm saying is it's a different dynamic that maybe they haven't thought about it as much. We have one processor that will harvest some fields at the very beginning of the season green, grab a few loads of green for some green salsa. But they don't do it during the season with, the off-grade tomatoes. Our fields, for the most part, are relatively clean. There's always some there, just from the mechanical aspect of it, but they're relatively clean. Would not think we have 9% in the field, and that might have been just one case in that one chart, but in our fields on a historical basis. The grower doesn't, it's a deduct, so it goes against his non-paid weight. Let me look and see. I can try to see real quick what we averaged. I'm guessing I don't know if we averaged 1% last year. But they have to be grass green. On the ones in your study, were those completely grass green?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm having some problems.
João, já respondi.
Thank you, but
Mike was asking if they're grass green of their breakers, and they're grass green, they're green tomatoes.
Yeah, just like ours. I mean, it's got to be all green to be considered green, pretty much. Yeah. No, I'm kind of interested. How does it, when you're kind of looking at it and what to do with it, what's the taste like when you take a lot of green and you're trying to make something out of it?
See, can you?
What do the green
Tell me, because you are an expert in
taste of what?
Yeah,
I didn't understand the question.
What it tastes, our prototypes with the green tomatoes.
Oh, the lactic acid product.
Yeah, exactly.
It's tastes, the lactic acid, it makes it taste sweet. It ferments the tomato, but they're still deciding what strains they're going to use, and the actual, it's in the R&D stage what they're going to actually use the pickles for.
Yeah, and I remember we have some samples that we had some salt, and so it's quite sweet and sour, which is quite, for me was strange, but in fact it's a sweet and sour feeling in the mouth. These new prototypes that we did, adding some salt, and of course with the specific strains that could work, could live with a low percentage of salt in the base of the pomace that we did with the green tomatoes.
I think one of the reasons in Portugal we have more greens is we have a milder climate than you do in California, so that the tomatoes take longer to ripen, and it's more difficult to get the plants to ripen fully at the same time.
In is the driver customer driven? Like, does your customer require, I'll call it a more pure paste?
Portugal is a little different from most producing countries in that we have a very small consumption within Portugal. Almost all our product is for export, and the export demands, depending what markets you're supplying, but generally are quite demanding in terms of color. So the tolerance of green fruit is low.
This project was done to increase the yield to the grower, so find alternatives for the grower.
What's left? Yeah.
Yeah. Because we like to help our growers.
I know you do. I know you do. Yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, Martin's seen both sides. Is this just that our industry kind of matured or developed doing it a certain way, so that's what our buyers are accustomed to, and that's why we do it the way we do?
In California?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because from our grower perspective, you know, it happens periodically that, you know, a field might not have ripened, but it's usually a weather, disease, you know, there's some kind of issue that it brought it about. I don't know if they would say they could get a big lift from it here, financial lift, if we figured out something to do, because so much of it's taken out. I mean, you know, we have some processors that use a straight pull behind machine that sorts none of it out. You know, it takes it all. And so that they're actually kind of looking the other way, you know, versus, you know, kind of less green, almost you could say more green, just based on the harvesting method.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I am, you know, because even here you would have to find a way to run it, right, at the same time concurrently, or, you know, a system to use it if you could find a good place for it or a market for it.
Yeah. If it were possible to ferment it and it became a volume which was worthwhile, it would always be a separate line.
Mike, I would like to make a question. You said that one of your producers harvests some of the green tomatoes in the beginning. Why does it do that? Does it evens the maturity after from those plants?
I think it's a matter of you know, they can't do it concurrently with the red, so they'll go to a grower, and it's very few loads. You know, it's not huge; it's very few loads, and they'll say, we're going to pick a quarter of your field and leave the other 3/4, and we'll pay you on what the other 3/4 do, because obviously it's not going to have the weight or you know, it's not ready, but they just need a few green tomatoes to you know, to make this product.
But what product is that?
It's a salsa.
A salsa, like for tacos or sorry for my question. Yeah. Okay. And you know what is the process they use to do that salsa?
Yes, I think we know how they do it.
You know, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You should understand, Patricia, they harvest all the tomatoes green.
Yes.
So they harvest the whole plant.
Okay, yeah, that was the other question. So how they how
Yeah,
they did it.
It's probably a month before they're ready, or before they should be in there. Maybe 2 months.
Okay.
It's early.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
it's very small. I mean, very small so far. I think they're kind of dabbling with it for a customer, would be my assumption.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, if you allow me, I have another question related with the way that you produce tomato in California. Well, in the European strategy for 2030, we must to decrease the use of pesticides in 50% and the fertilizers in 30%. Forgetting the pesticide and focusing in the fertilizers, what kind of advice could you give us to trying to solve this problem that we will have in a few years related with the decreasing the level of fertilization in our fields in 30%? That it's a huge problem.
I'd have to think. I mean, that's a lot. How many years?
Well, we have 10
years.
10 years to do it.
You say 10?
Yeah.
I know that, some individuals are looking at, their rotations, obviously cover crops, cover crops to soil enrichment. That's a big percentage though.
Mycorrhiza?
Huh?
Mycorrhizal? Mycorrhization?
I don't know about that. I'm not trying to say I would be negative on that at all. I don't think we're into that a ton. And I'm thinking on what else. That's a tough one. That would be.
And this is a common problem because Spain will have the same problem as us, because we are talking about European laws. So Spain and Portugal and Italy, all of us will have. We must find new solutions, which is good. We want to bet in the ecology and biodiversity, but we want that in our field. But we must think together. Who knows, to find new solutions.
One of the areas, and I don't know if everyone can hear me.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. And Mike is familiar with this as well. Is California, it's not a solution for this problem at all. But one of the climate smart agricultural programs that we are pursuing and provide incentives to farmers is kind of healthy soils, in terms of trying to build soil health, organic matter in the soils, etc. And we do have, part of that is not only incentivizing farmers to try practices on the ground, but also kind of create demonstration projects to show the larger industry what can be done for certain sectors. And I don't think we've worked with Mike yet in trying to doing something similar for tomatoes, but maybe that's an avenue in the future, kind of given that this is something that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I know Dawn has a little bit. I don't know. I was trying to think of how. I don't know if we've had any big swaths though. It's been other crops. I think it's coming for all of us. I think how I look at it is, on an annual basis, the majority of our growers are trying to move in that direction, where they can make improvements, incrementally, whether it's, less diesel engines on their pumps. We have a lot of incentives for converting, cleaner burning fuel, electric, but it's incremental. If we were, if we were trying to do it and see big jumps, the things I see are very positive, but they seem to be, it never moves as fast as we want, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
On
Well, and Mike, I think what's interesting about that too is definitely the need for research and working through the association and growers to get research not only in terms of how to reduce fertilization, but on disease, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about, because I think it's very educational in terms of how the industry conducts research, how that's kind of funded and how that work occurs?
I was thinking, kind of seeing the group we have when we do this again, which I would be happy to, and think we probably should, because the second meeting's usually, you start getting to certain issues. I would invite our research institute, Zach, who we work with, that kind of handles, the research arm of it. Our research here is self-funded by the growers. They every year, fund 10 to 15 projects, probably some years, maybe more, with UC Davis, our local universities. Some are multi-year projects, like I'm sure you all know, and some are annual. I know they have done, some research on it, but it's basically self-funded by the growers. They have to. They have to find answers, but I know they get frustrated sometimes because the projects go on and on and on. But that's research. Some fail. Research is failing too. What not to do is a research project. What doesn't work is a successful research project.
Yeah. So I'd be interested to understand how is CCTI kind of funded and organized? Is that grower supported, processor supported, or how does that work?
Process, and João, maybe you could help us. Certainly processors contribute. And then EU R&D funds.
Oh, because I didn't understood quite well the question. If I'm understanding well,
how is the work funded?
Work funded. Okay. So we have some European funds. That means we can apply directly to Brussels, and it's a very difficult submission. But when you receive the grant, it's quite nice. And we have national funds as well. So at the moment, the CCTI, we are dealing with I think 7 or 8 projects funded nationally, and 1 funded in Brussels. So answering you, we have public funds, grants. That means in grant form that could support our work. And again, what is good in the system is the deliverables. One of the deliverables are the recognition, more or less the recognition from the sector. And it's good because if we are not doing nothing that could be used or could be helpful for the sector, then we will not, or we should not apply for public funds. Again, until now, we don't have that problem, thank God, but we must continue to work. And of course, contacts like this could help us a lot, trying to define new lines of work, trying to define new. It's very good to have options more than have solutions. We have options, contacting other persons in the net, sorry, to find again lines of work, to find to discuss our problems.
Perfect. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I mean, I think what we've learned, and I think from webinars such as this and some of our work with other countries, is definitely bringing together growers, bringing together academia, and bringing together the policymakers has really been helpful in kind of understanding some of the shared problems that we have on the ground and the best opportunities we have to collaborate and trying to find solutions. So I think, you know, as Mike indicated, I think there's definitely potential for kind of continuing this discussion and kind of bringing more players into it to kind of more tailor it and focus it to some of the specific challenges. So thank you.
Exactly. No, thank you. Sophia, I don't know if you want to add something to the discussion.
No, nothing just yet.
Okay, in this point, if there isn't another question so to discuss, maybe we make a summary of. We think this is very positive, and we are open to continue in future sections this network. I don't know if anyone has any other question, if other points to discuss. If there aren't, we want to thank to all participants, and we're going to send a list of all and the entities. For me, thank you to all.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Mike, for joining us and providing that overview for California agriculture, and especially within the green, in the tomato industry as a whole. And Jennifer, again, thank you so much for your partnership and leadership for us as well. We greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to coordinating with our colleagues in Portugal as we move forward.
Yeah, I think if there's like the fertilization, you know, some of the other issues, if there wants to be, you know, if we want to kind of further it, just pinpoint a couple issues, maybe get together, you know, whatever relatively short is anymore, but, you know, kind of just to, you know, have another conversation. You know, I'm all for that. You know, just kind of, hey, you guys, what do you know about X? And, you know, get some folks together on that specific topic and have another conversation, I see as a benefit.
And if I could add to that, I think one of the areas that we can go is to kind of more advertise this and make it more public. So we wanted to focus on a specific issue such as reduced fertilization. What we could do is bring in kind of government representatives, bring in growers to talk about the practices that they're doing on their land, and also kind of researchers to talk about where the research is, and kind of market that to our various stakeholders and market. And, you know, we've had over 200 participants participate on a webinar just like this as an audience that we're able to kind of see and be educated by and become aware of all the work that we're doing. So I think that might be a good next step to kind of expand our base and involve some of our stakeholders as well.
That's great. Good idea.
Yeah, that could be really useful.
Okay, it's certainly nice to see everybody's faces.
Speaking of which, if folks don't mind and can get on camera, we would love to take a screenshot of the meeting. Is that okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so for those that can't do camera.
Are you going to count so I can get my good side?
I can count, sure.
Make sure my good side.
Yes, Mike, I got you. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Cheese.
All right, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye.